On the move, 4 seconds left. Got a man. It's caught. Touchdown.
There you have it. 2 big highlights from a Friday night, thanks to the NFL Network. Appreciate the call there. Rudy Carpenter joins us now on the Right to It guest line. Rudy, you heard Clayton Tune there. You heard David Blau there. Two touchdowns for the Cardinals on Friday night. When you kind of look at these two quarterbacks, did either of them impress you more than the other?
I don't know. It's always really hard to tell. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of times in the preseason, especially the first preseason game, it's, you're only going to run, the first, second, maybe third installations in your playbook, and the defense is going to play, their very, very basic coverages and their basic, defensive schemes. A lot of times people think that's because, the coaches want to hide their scheme and not put a bunch on film for other teams to see and evaluate. But really the truth is they just want to keep it very simple so they can evaluate their guys and they can watch their guys play without having to think a ton and just see, how their guys read and react and see some of their instincts and the way that they can, make adjustments, throw the ball, or have receivers run routes with confidence, catch the football, or on defense, same thing. They can get lined up. They can read, react, and make plays, and they can see their instinctual ability, their physical ability, how they can run and hit, tackle, things of that nature. So a lot of times, these quarterbacks can only do, what they're asked to do. And based on that, I thought, both Clayton and David Blau both, did a decent job executing the plays that were called and making the most of both of their opportunities.
You feel that Tune's got to go above and beyond to beat out the experience that David Blau has. What is his 6th year now, I believe. And I thought they both looked decent, but you think in order for them to make that decision to back up Colt McCoy initially until Kyler comes back, that he's got to do anything extra or in an ordinary in reference to beating out Blau because of the experience?
I don't know. That might be true, but I also think there's a lot of business and political things at stake. I mean, you would love to, confidently say, well, hey, listen, I think the guy that performs the best and the guy that executes the best and the guy that plays the best and performs the best is the guy that's going to win the job. But with that being said, David Blau's been in the league for a few years, been on a few teams, bounced around, and Clayton Tune was a draft pick by this organization. He was a guy drafted by this new GM, drafted by this new head coach, drafted by this new offensive coordinator. And I just think a lot of times it's very, very difficult for them to, cut a draft pick, to get rid of a draft pick. When you cut a draft pick, or, cut anybody in general, they have to go through that 24-hour, waiver time. And that gives a chance for any other team to claim them. And now that they've changed the quarterback rules, which make it, more of a chance that every single team is going to keep 3 quarterbacks on the active roster. Look, I think it's really, really difficult for a team that drafted a guy to cut him. So there might be a situation which initially David Blau backs up Colt McCoy and they keep Thune as the third quarterback. The question is what happens when Kyler Murray comes back and then you have, Colt McCoy as your backup. Do you keep Blau as your third guy or do you keep Thune as your third guy? And I think in that case, you're probably going to keep Thune as your third guy. And if you do that, you're probably going to take a chance if you release him to give somebody else the opportunity to claim him off of waivers, especially with the new, a third quarterback rule the way that it is. So I don't know, really, really difficult to tell. If I had to guess, because this team's not going to be very good either way, I wouldn't be surprised if they just decided to keep Thune as the second quarterback and move on with it.
Rudy, take me to the defensive side of the ball. That's a major concern with everything that has changed on that side of the ball. I thought early in the game they put a lot of pressure on Russell Wilson. What did you see, and how did that defensive scheme work for you?
Yeah, again, I think they did, do a good job creating pressure naturally with their front four. Just getting to the quarterback. The main thing is points, right? That's the object of the game. You want to score more points than the other team. And And in this situation, both teams did a good job, not allowing the other team to score. You kind of expect that in the first preseason game. But again, going back to what I said earlier, I know they're just terrible, boring answers. I know you guys look for me to say things that are a little bit better, but it's just really, really hard to tell in the first preseason game because everybody's running their base defense. Everybody's, trying to simplify everything so they can allow their starters and they can allow their backup guys to go out there and play fast. And what you want to see on defense is you want to see guys read, you want to see guys react, you want to see guys run, and you want to see guys hit and tackle. And sometimes that gets a little bit more difficult when you're running these really complicated schemes because you got guys talking to each other, communicating to each other pre-snap. All of a sudden the ball snapped and everybody's saying, "Oh crap, what happened?" So again, it's just a lot of base defense that they're running against all of the Broncos' base offensive stuff. So to me, we'll probably get a much better look in the third preseason game about what this defense is, who they're trying to be, what they are going to, believe in as a unit. But again, obviously we're going to get a nice long look on the stretch of the season to see who this team really is. And on both sides of the ball, you've got, in my opinion, young coordinators who are still figuring their way out.
Is he cutting out on your end?
Yeah, I think, and the other thing too that you take a look at, I thought it was a fairly clean game for the first preseason. You only had 4 penalties. Obviously, the pick more slips and falls down, and unfortunately, Tunes is gets the credit for that pick. And then they had 1 interception, defensively. But the one thing I thought was pretty interesting was they were 50% on third down conversions. Yes, I know it's a preseason game, and then having the ball 10 minutes more than the Broncos. I mean, those are good building blocks, I thought, for a very first pre.
Well, personally, I think that's a really big deal. Big deal because when you're a new coaching staff, trying to get the operation, trying to have the guys be able to execute the operation, run the operation, get the plays called, get in and out of the huddle, no pre-snap penalties, no post-snap penalties, no delay of game, no shift in motion penalties. Those are the things that tell you whether or not your guys are believing in the scheme, whether they're buying into what you're trying to get done on offense and defense. When you come out there and you have a whole bunch of penalties, no offense towards Cliff, but we used to see that a ton with his teams. And in my view, what that means is it's just not a priority to them. It's not a priority. And discipline, obviously, with Coach Gannon is a priority. And so when you see the fact that the operation is run smooth, there's not a lot of turnovers, there's not a lot of post-snap penalties, more importantly, there's not a lot of pre-snap penalties, there's not a lot of substitution issues that cause penalties. To me, that's a really good sign that the coaching staff and what they believe in, the discipline stuff is very important. On another topic, if you watch The Untold on Netflix on Johnny Manziel, Cliff Kingsbury had some interesting cameos in that episode in which
3 minutes
by hearing Cliff Kingsbury talk, discipline was not something he cared about. This is a guy who literally went on the Netflix show and said, "Oh, hey, the dark side of Johnny is what made Johnny who he was. So, hey, if he wanted to go out and have a couple beers before a game, I had to let him do it, So it's like, I mean, Jesus, it's no wonder the guy didn't have success really anywhere he's been, to be honest with you. I can only imagine how he was coaching Kyler.
Oh man, I'd like to. About 20 years from now, I'd like to read that chapter. That's for sure, Rudy. With that, into that point. But when you looked at the game overall,
well, we already know. We already know because Kyler had to have a study clause put in his contract. We already know.
You're right.
Like we already know.
You just simplified. So how do you feel they build going into the Chiefs game on Saturday night? In reference to, I thought I'm like you, very poised, clean game. To that standpoint, he played
2
quite a bit
minutes
of the starters. I thought, which was good. How do you build upon what you just did against this Chiefs, the world champions, coming in Saturday night?
Well, I think the same thing. You just want to keep on. You want to keep on building. Obviously, you want to have no penalties, no pre-snap penalties. You want to clean that up as much as you can, even though it wasn't a huge deal in this last game. You still want to clean it up. I think if you're the Arizona Cardinals, from a defensive standpoint, you feel good about the fact you kept them, with their, out of the end zone per se, or their points low, right? They weren't giving up big plays. They weren't giving up explosive plays. You're probably going to have an emphasis on let's try to turn the ball over a couple more times if we can. I think
1 minute,
offense,
1 minute.
They're going to want to, keep the same thing, right? Which is, penalties low, et cetera, et cetera. They're probably going to want to, put an emphasis on explosive plays. Let's try to create some more opportunities for some explosive plays. I consider explosive plays 20-plus yards, whether it's in the run game or the pass game. And then I'm sure they're probably, talking about, hey, guys, yeah, we did a good job protecting the football. We did a good job executing, from a certain aspect here and there. But the object of the game is to get the ball across the goal line. So let's figure out more ways to score more points. And, I think if they can do that, they'll probably continue to feel better about what they're doing schematically, and they'll feel better about their guys, believing and buying into what they're trying to do on both sides of the football.
Rudy, we always appreciate you, buddy. Thanks so much. Have a great week.
All right, guys, take care.
That's Rudy Carpenter joining us here on Rock and Manooch with Jimmy B, Fox Sports 910. You can follow him on Twitter at Rudy G. Carp